Hey, good morning, everyone. Today on the Aceify podcast, we've got two special guests from the world of sport. We have Alistair McCaw, a motivational speaker, author, best-selling book on Champion Minded, is it? On Amazon?
To be honest with you, I don't even look at that stuff. So,
it's got to be.
But
I'm sure it is.
We'll say it is. Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And you speak on performance athletes, elite performers, business gurus, speaking to them in world-class situations.
Yeah. First of all, thanks so much for having us on the show. Leadership culture, work in high-performance environments, work with leaders, coaches. So it's all comes down to high-performing teams and individuals. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And also we have ex-pro from Belgium, Xavier Malisse, career high ranking of 20.
19.
19.
Yeah.
Big difference.
And I know my fellow coaches are going to be dying to hear about your exploits on the tour, especially beating the top 4, top 3, as they are known now, especially one special player. So we'll talk about that as well. And also, yesterday you was on the next court to me in my office.
Yeah,
that was amazing to see you on the court as a tennis coach.
Teaching.
Yes, and I was learning from you too.
Yeah, it's a good environment. So
yeah,
it was nice.
Well, that was good to see you there. Everyone's like super chuffed that you were there. Both were there at our club at the Chelsea Harbour. So you've been a busy man, Alistair. You've been up and down the country. Last time I looked on social media, you were up in Scotland with some business people, football folk, rugby folk. And especially the Scottish rugby team. Now, I don't know much about rugby, okay? I'm a tennis, football, everything else.
Yeah.
But rugby, it's a different ball. But my father-in-law, I have to tell you, is a keen rugby player, supports a rugby.
Okay.
He said, you've got to ask him. I said, well, ask him what? About what happened with the Scottish team. I said, we're talking about the Scottish team. Well, they had a key player, and he wasn't picked to play. I said, well, I don't know what happens there. Maybe the team is bigger than the player. So I'll ask him, but I don't know what will happen with the answer with that question. I'm not too sure whether you're privy to that answer or you're allowed to speak about the rugby playing question. I don't know who the guy is, but I know he was a key player. And he was everyone wanted him to play, but the management side said no. And he didn't play against England, I believe, or any other matches between. Are you allowed to speak about that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, it's obviously all over the media as well. So it's no lie. But Finn Russell obviously did something that wasn't within the team's standards and protocol, and that's why I really align with Coach Gregor Townsend's standards and view in terms of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in the team. And obviously, a player violated the rules. It's no lie that there's been issues in the past as well, and as a leader, as a strong leader, you have to lay down that to the other players as what's acceptable and what's not. And now, if you're letting your star player get away with that, what's that telling the rest of the team? That there's going to be double standards, or that you're not a strong leader because you're not enforcing your standards. So, in my opinion, he made the right choice. No individual is bigger than the team. Yeah. And obviously it's been all over the media and everything, but definitely, Gregor Townsend is a great leader, good coach. They have an amazing staff there as well. They're a team that are very together. I feel they still haven't reached their peak yet, which is exciting. But definitely the choice he made was, in my opinion, the right one.
Yeah. Over to you, Xavier, about team sports. Obviously, you represented Belgium in the Davis Cup, which comes from an individual sport into a team sport, i.e. doubles. Did you play doubles for Belgium?
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a different situation because, like you say, every game we play is just for ourselves, and then you come into a Davis Cup environment, which actually all the players really like. It's the only chance you get to defend your country. No matter, some players, even myself included, sometimes the federations get in the way, which is with everybody. But it's just the feeling. I played the singles and the doubles sometimes, so you gotta switch your mind on and off. it's a very different feeling. It's almost an uncomfortable feeling because you don't really know how to react with all the fans and everything, because usually it's pretty quiet in the tennis, and you get a lot of clapping after and before points. But Davis Cup, different environment. But I always loved it because even though you travel with a team, it is after a while always the same people. So you get to know each other. It's like a marriage almost.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Davis Cup was nice. You get 4 or 5 players. You get the whole staff. You're there a whole week, so you kind of have 3-4 days where you have not the fun, but the giggles and the laughs at the table.
Yeah.
So it's more than just the match. It's the whole atmosphere around the whole week. And when you start doing it, it's I loved it because finally you get to hang out with the boys and just have a nice week. So it's more than just the matches and the doubles and the singles.
Yeah, the team dynamics there from an individual sport into a team sport. Obviously, at international level in team sports in rugby and football, the players will be playing against each other. And did you ever play against Oliver Rokas? Is it? Did you ever play against your teammate from the same country?
Yeah, which is, to be honest, I was never very good at. Because I usually got along with everybody on tour, so and then to do it against your own countrymen, it's tough. I think I lost more matches against the guys than I actually won, but it's just an uncomfortable feeling. But at the end of the day, it's a match. When you go on court, it's just another opponent you try to beat. And at the end of the day, we're all friends, and whoever wins, somebody's going to win, so it might as well be yourself.
Yeah. So coming from your role, so you find yourself in that situation, so you went over, and let's rewind it all back, and you went, and Belgium asked you to come along, but you're coaching Xavier, and then all of a sudden, he in another tournament, he's playing against Oliver.
Yeah.
And then he's his teammate. Is there any sort of language or communication that you would put across to the team that now, or does it all happen naturally? We're friends now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be in deep mortal combat against you.
No, well, I'm only going to speak from my own situation, and obviously Xavier and I would work together.
Yes.
So Xavier had asked me to come there as well, and that happens with a few teams and players where they do bring either their own trainer or physio, whatever it may be. So no, but being on the tour for a lot of years as well, I knew all the guys, so there was already a relationship there. Also important to know what my position is, what I should be involved in, what I shouldn't be involved in. That's very important because I am not part of the federation. But obviously, I knew Ollie, and I knew David Goffin was there as just coming in. When you were pretty much
just behind you.
Yeah. Pretty much it was an overlap of maybe a year or two that he was in the Davis Cup team, and Xavier was still the number one player there. So for me, it was different. My role, should I say?
Okay, understand. Now, your role, going on to your role, there's people out there about motivational speakers. They also would think about Tony Robbins. Okay, they'll put Tony Robbins in this place, and then they'll put people like yourself and other people at your level. Are they the same? Are they totally different? Or as laymen, can we just borrow off each of you, pick out the bits that we want?
Absolutely, just like I do. I listen to a whole host of good speakers and inspirational people out there. Simon Sinek, Tony Robbins. Learn from Tim Ferriss, all these type of people. So I think we all steal from each other. Which is no lie. We all steal from the best and we modify it or bring it across in a different way. There's so many good people out there. Of course, today with social media, it's so easy to listen to these people as well. Actually, Tony Robbins lives about 20 minutes from me in West Palm Beach, so there seems to be a few guys around that area. Yeah, yeah.
Community. And speaking of stealing, I have to now confess, many years ago, when I was about 10 years into my coaching career, I was coaching this young lady. She was about 17 at the time, deep introvert, would not talk to me, would only go through her parents and then their relay. It was an incredible journey for me. And she performed really well for me, but I was really struggling. Now I have to make this confession. I found you somewhere, I don't know where, while you were coaching Xavier, and I nicked so many drills from you.
Good.
There was the ones, I think, when you were coming back, about you had like 12 cones along the baseline, and you were going in and out, in and out.
Yeah.
I should have bought my notebook because I did it. So I totally understand about the stealing, taking gems out of it. Obviously, they put 12 down, or how many you done? I put just 3 because she was only 16. But I think a lot of coaches out there back in those days didn't have the access of the internet as much as it is now. And personally, as a tennis coach, I was searching for the mental side of how to relay the mental side of our sport, our individual sport, back across. I found it such a struggle. I was a sportsman, or well, I still am, but it didn't quite come across. So it was very difficult in those days. And I think it still is for developing coaches, rookie coaches to come across, because I don't think the federations actually instill that side, the mental side. They'll teach us all about the technique, error detection, tactical awareness, a little bit of physical, even that's not quite there, but there's not much on the mental side. If I was a rookie coach and I was just about to go on and start learning my career, what piece of advice would you give to me on the mental side to give to my players at a club level to help me as a tennis coach?
Good question. And by the way, you're probably the fittest looking guy sitting at this table right now.
Oh, thank you very much.
You know what? We spoke about this last night at the Aceify seminar held at the Harbour Club. And, as a leader coach, your example, first of all. If you're wanting your player to be positive and to be calm under pressure, then you've got to be that person as well. So the first thing is your example. Second thing is to point out, or discover where that player, what areas they become negative in what situations, and go to work on that. Now, what happens most of the time is that we try and take on too much, instead of just focusing on one particular area. So, for example, in tennis we get 20, 25 seconds in between a point. That's a very, very important point, a time to refocus yourself, reset yourself after a last point. So you could start there, for example. Tennis, the ball's in play 18 to 21% of the time, which makes it, I call it an 80% mental sport, because you're thinking 80% of the time. So if you can start there just with simple strategies of what to think in between a point, I like to use FF, is forget the last point, focus on the next. And I'll even have players, for example, write that on their grip, FF, focus, forget, focus, yeah. So little strategies, because it's cues as well. Where's your toothbrush? It's sitting on the top of your sink. Why? Because you see it, right? So it's like a cue. So see something like written on the grip, for example. So, for example, Mary Pierce, she, in between a point, she would walk back towards the back wall, play with her strings. She was forgetting the previous point, and when she turned to face the court, she was focusing on the next point. So it was like a symbolic type of
ritual.
Yes.
And Xavier, did you have access to anything like that, or were you naturally a talented player? Just keep the thing going. It's so beautiful as you do.
You're very talented in that area. No. I mean, in the beginning stage of my career, I was very. I would get mad. I wouldn't forget. I would focus. I was always pretty focused, but I wouldn't forget. So at some point in a match, you're going to have a struggle, and if you didn't forget, you're at that one point where, let's say, you could have had an easy volley to win the set. If you don't forget that point, 2 or 3 games later, it's going to come back at a point where now the other guy has a break point, he makes it, and then you go, oh, I should have had that break point. But that's when you're not really focusing on where you want to go, because you'll lose the match, first of all. And second of all, you're not really getting any better or learning from the whole situation. So I had a lot of stages in my career. I would say everything went pretty smooth when I was younger. Then when I started losing, because in juniors and all that, I didn't lose too much. But understanding how to lose, you can lose and take something away from it, or you can lose and just get worse. So in the beginning stages, I did. I think I got worse. Not just tennis-wise, because like I said, I hated to lose, so I won a lot of matches just because I didn't want to lose. I'm a perfectionist. But I did lose a couple of matches here and there just because my attitude was bad. So, I got a nice wake-up call in 2005 when I got disqualified. At the time, of course, you don't want to be disqualified, but I learned a lot from it and actually settled me down for the rest of my career. So, it's a long career. Bad stuff is going to happen. Good stuff is going to happen, and I think the good stuff, when things go well, everything goes well. It's the same in daily life, I think. But it's how you react to the bad stuff. That's where you learn the most from it.
You come out stronger, don't you?
Yeah.
If you can just stop and have
a
rewind what happened.
Yeah, you come out stronger if you assess it and learn from it. Yeah, and try to stop it. It goes quickly the other way, and actually a lot of players disappear because they can't handle it and focus on the good stuff even. So there's only 100 guys in the top 100, so but there's millions playing, or thousands. So it's a tough sport.
It's a very tough sport. Do you think it's the toughest sport?
Everybody thinks their sport is the toughest sport for some reason. You look at cycling, you look at the Tour de France, it's a different type of toughness. Tennis, there's so many elements as well. There's different strokes to perfect. Of course, there's the mental side in between, for example. So it's tough to say, because every sport has its challenging elements, be it physical, be it mental.
Now, your backgrounds, growing up, I presume South Africa.
All right, how long have you got? All right, okay, quick.
And, let's say teenage years. Was you into sport in the teenage years for both of you? Don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So, quick one. Born in Belfast, immigrated to South Africa. That is where so many sports were exposed to in school. The school system in South Africa is that you're exposed to 15, 20 sports. There's a 50-meter pool at your school, public school. Because in South Africa in those days, and I'm talking 80s, 90s, is that everything was revolved around sports. If you played sports in school in South Africa, you could get adolescence. So I was playing 7 sports a season. So my multi-skills, you're playing rugby, you're playing soccer, cricket, tennis. You'd go from track and field to tennis practice to soccer practice. You get home at 7 p.m. So a little bit like Australia. And of course the climate was great as well. So yeah, for me, today I'm very, very thankful for the foundation I had, because I got to learn a lot of sports. I got to learn how to play individual sports, which I say is accountability, ownership, and I learned to play team sports, which is the ability to work with others.
Xavier?
For me, it was a bit different. For me, it was just, in Belgium, we play tennis, we cycle, or we play football, So I wasn't going to cycle, so I played a lot of football in school, actually, and actually joined a little bit of teams and stuff, so... but I loved, every time we had sports in school up to about 10, 12 years old, we sometimes you have baseball, but I liked to play different sports. Even now I play golf, I play football, baseball, basketball, I love everything with a ball, even badminton, ping pong. I played hours of ping pong with my brother. And throw many rackets at his head. And then you make a decision at 12 years old. Okay,
12 was your...
Yeah, that's where I went to the federation, joined the federation, and then it goes from there, because you can start traveling and play tournaments, and I was just winning a lot in tennis. So as a kid, it's always easier to choose a sport where it goes well. But to be honest, and you hear this a lot, individual sports, they wish, I would have loved to play football because it's a team sport. And then I know a lot of football guys in Belgium, they said, it must be so much fun to play individual. So, it's just because you've done it for so long probably. But, teenage years, yeah, those many sports is important. Even when I moved to Florida at the age of 17 to the Bollettieri Academy, we were still playing football every Saturday and Wednesday with all the coaches for an hour and a half. A lot of South American coaches, so good football players. But you know, it's you have to be careful because you don't want any injuries. So no tackles with us. But it's just you need to keep playing as well, just even for movement or just get your mind off things and stuff.
And that's critical. I believe over the years that the multi-sport to help develop mentally, physically.
I think you have to. You can't just play tennis all the time and talk about tennis at dinner and wake up in tennis because you're gonna burn yourself so quickly.
Yeah, so it's a key.
You need to relax sometimes because you know even if you're on the tour, you're taking your life on the tour. You know, it's so have a dinner, don't talk about tennis all the time. Talk about other sports or whatever it is, but. Or go play golf or forget about tennis for 3-4 hours. You know, it's important.
I think some tennis coaches I've talked to over the years, they get stuck in this place where, well, he or she's got to keep playing tennis, got to keep playing, because otherwise she's just going to lose something. I think it's part of the rookie coach. I think I was a little bit guilty of it myself because I believe that she's got to keep playing. But then I look back on it over years later, I thought, well, Chaz, you did multi-sports as a kid, which helped you get to where you were. And then it dawned on me that, well, yeah, go and let her or him play a bit more football and netball or whatever sport it is. Yeah. Take her a little chance. She'll probably come back hungry to play tennis, but then you get the parent pressure. But Chaz, what happens if she doesn't enter this tournament and she's ranking, and then the rating system, it just goes on forever. But it seems like the common formula is that most professional athletes are actually playing multi-sports, and it helps them to get into a professional capacity far quicker and easier. They understand it. I mean, the same happens at club level, doesn't it? Do you play more doubles than singles? That is the question. I prefer doubles, they usually say to me, because I'm with a team. I'm with someone. I don't want to be on my own. Well, that's fair enough then. But have a try at playing singles and vice versa as well. Sure. So it's a common formula.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, if I look at all the players I've worked with, you know, Xavier obviously being one, but I can think of Svetlana Kuznetsova. I can think of a lot of players that, you know, they can play at least 2 or 3 other sports very, very well. I mean, Xavier plays a lot of sports very well. You know, basketball, shoots basketball well, plays soccer at a very good level. His golf is, you know, he can play pro-ams as well. So he's at a very, very high level. You know, you look at guys like the Australian Draper, Scott Draper, Marty Fish, Tim Hinman. I mean, I look at guys I worked with like Alex Bogomolov, can play a very, very high standard of basketball with good level, college guys. Svetlana, great soccer skills. Obviously, she was brought up in Spain at Sanchez Casel. They're exposed to a lot of sports, so they're good athletes. You have to be a good athlete before you're a good player. It's the foundation.
Yeah, it's the foundation. Yeah, of it, isn't it? Really. Going on to that idea of multi-sports, and they were good at a younger age at another sport, and then had to make the decision. You mentioned Edberg yesterday. A great story about he was a squash player and then picked tennis. Now, at that point, who usually makes that decision? Do you think it's the parent? Is it him? Or who does it fall down to? And who advises that person? And how was it for you? Who advised you to go into tennis? Because that's a critical decision-making time in a person's life, not just a professional career, but a person's life. Who makes that decision?
It's more it's not like a decision. Okay, we're gonna sit around the table and we're gonna decide. Okay, for you today it's tennis and that's it. It kind of goes more. It kind of glides into it. I think you have the coaches. You have. I was in a tennis school in Waregem in Belgium with great coaches, And you know, it just goes like gradually. I think you win some tournaments, you enter some tournaments, you play some club matches, and then of course at the end of the day, even if you have healthy parents which are not pushing you to do it, because if they push you to do it, then the decision's already made for you anyway. So luckily I had parents that always let me do what I want to do in sports. So you know, just talk about it. I made a decision at 17 years old, when juniors were going well, that I was going to quit my last year of school and go to the academy in Florida. But at the end of the day, it's probably most the decision of the person itself, the athlete itself, because if he doesn't really want to do it, then all the rest doesn't really matter, I think. So, you know, it's tough at 12, 13 to decide. You know, I was going to boarding school, which, in all fairness, if it didn't work out, I would just take the train back and I'd be back home. So it's not the biggest decision. But going on to Florida when you're 17, you know, I talked to my, you know, before with my mom, and she said if I had to redo it, I wouldn't have let you go to Florida and quit school, because you know it's a big decision. If it doesn't work out, now you have no degree, you don't know what to do. Obviously, there's many options in tennis, coaching and stuff, but you know it's a big risk, and that's why I say at that age, at 16, 17, you know, you have your own mind, and the player itself needs to want it and do it. Otherwise, there's no point of spending any money and going to different countries to learn more, because if it doesn't come from within, it's never going to come out. You know?
Sounds like you had the perfect parents on that side.
To be honest, my parents were very easy. I took the train when I was 13, 14 to go to tournaments, talked to my coach to pick me up from the train station. I mean, obviously my parents were there because my mom drove me a lot to practices when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, you know, with the little car behind the truck, and so you know. But my parents were. My mom loved tennis. She even at it's a funny story. Even at a young age, I was always winning, so she knew I was going to win because I was the better player at like 9, 10 years old. But when the other guy made a nice point, she loved tennis. So if the other guy made a nice point, she would clap. And you know, I was 10 years old, so I was like, "Whose mom were you anyway?" So it's very funny at that time. But I had, you know, with my parents, I got very lucky. They let me do what I want. If I wanted to quit, I could quit. Yeah, and that's why I think sometimes it's better. It comes from the person itself, and they're just there to support you. They're behind you, and they don't push you. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get stuck there, don't they? Get pushed on now with so many different inputs coming through: parents, coaches, sponsors, money,
managers.
Even more managers. I mean, puts a lot of pressure on them. So this is very tricky for the young player. Going back to your career from the federation and entering into the ITFs, how was it in the ITFs, and who were your peers at that time before you entered into the ATP tour as a fully fledged professional? Because that's another decision, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it done? How did you feel? Could you just jump it, or did you do it because your rankings and your points said, I'm now ATP tour?
It's a bit of a mixture. There's a couple of people you always come through. Always, you know, there's one or two, maybe sometimes three, but usually one or two key figures in your life that make, you know, that are there to support you. So first, the federation for me, we weren't always on the best terms, but to be in all fairness, from my age 12 to about 16, they did a really good job. I mean, there was a lot of players at the federation back then, probably about, not all my age group, but there was probably about 20, 25 people in boarding school. Very good system. We had, when there was sports in school, we were allowed to go practice during the day, taken with buses back to school. So that whole thing was good. Then when I finally made the decision to go to Florida, because I felt like I was not improving anymore at the age of 16. They had some good coaches at the federation. They had some coaches that were there for their own benefit. So I talked to my parents. It was actually Justin Hennon's dad who told me that they were with IMG. So I got contacted by IMG. They said, what do you want? I said, I want to practice in the sun and I want to sweat hard because I want to feel like I'm really practicing. So they said, go to the academy. So went to the academy with my brother for a tryout. My brother joined me so I wouldn't be alone. And after 2 days, I called my parents. I said, send all my clothes. I'm not coming back. So, I really enjoyed it because we got, I got lucky, and that's where two key people in my life showed up, which was Nick Bollettieri himself and Fritz Now, who had been the coach with Agassi, who wanted to stop traveling and was now the coach for like the elite group at the academy. So we learned so much so quickly from these people. And then about 6 months in at the academy, actually, they had a big tournament there, juniors, Eddie Herr. And I won the tournament, was supposed to go to Orange Ball the next week. And that's when Nick talked to me, Nick Bollettieri, and says, there's no point of you going there because it's the same tournament as this week. And you've got nothing to prove, and I want you to stay here because I got the opportunity to practice with Inquist was there, Tommy Haas, Marcelo Rios, and he says you're going to be sparring partner for the whole month for these top 10 guys. So decision was made to stop the juniors.
Because the Orange Bowl is like a marker, isn't it?
But you got the two tournaments, you have Eddie Herr and Orange Bowl, but basically everybody from the Eddie Herr goes to the Orange Bowl, so that's where Nick said, don't play the same thing twice. You won the first one, so it's time to go to the big decision. And that's where, like you asked before, where do you decide? But that's where the decision is made for you. But for me, and I told my parents also, and they said the same, it's an easy decision. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to keep playing juniors. Even when you're 18, you want to quit the year before and learn a lot more for the pros, because at the end of the day, that's where you want to be. So I was fortunate enough to be there, and Nick was pretty clear on what he wanted always, and and it helps. He's seen so many players, so it really helped me. And of course, I was excited, and that's where everything started for me.
Wow, that's great. That one. Going back to you, Allistair, is the idea of when a professional player is emerging onto the professional circuit, is there any sort of quality that's needed throughout, say, not just professional sport, professional businessman? What is it? Is it discipline? Is it commitment? Attitude? Is it similar across the board for a sportsman as it is for a businessman?
Yeah, I mean, all those things you mentioned are important, but for me the biggest one is desire. Yeah, the hunger. I mean, you can't teach somebody that. You can't give somebody hunger or desire or the fire, for example. It's got to come from within. So that's the most important thing. I mean, I was just last week chatting to a world champion boxer up in Scotland, and he said that's without hunger, without desire, you're not going to be successful, and it's 100% right. But of course, there's, mindset is important, work ethic is important, attitude is important. All these things are important. But this is why the message to juniors is so important. Is that the sooner you grasp the idea of working on the mindset, of being able to, like we just spoke about, forget the last point, focus on the next. Stay calm under pressure. The earlier you can do that, the better, because it gets harder the later on in life. We become adults, and we're wired a certain way. We have certain beliefs. We're stubborn about changing, especially in your your early 20s, for example. So it's so important to embrace working on the mindset at a very young age, because that gives you the best chance. The competence is there, the skills are there. As Xavier was saying last night at the Aceify event, even college players and guys that are ranked 600, 800 are very, very, very good players. In fact, I've always said this: it's like you going to a tournament and you don't know who the tennis players are. And let's just take the top 100, for example. If you didn't know tennis, you didn't know personalities, you would not probably be able to know who the number 1 player is and the number 100 player is, because when they're practicing, the level is incredibly high. And then the difference comes on when obviously the pressure and the environment is involved, and then you start to see who the better players are. But the level of skill, it's very, very high, across the board.
So that's going on to that mindset, your book, The Champion Mindset. What is a champion then?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Champion Minded was written a little bit out of my own experience, in terms of I was not the most talented guy. I wasn't just natural in picking something up. I had to work really hard at it. And I was really motivated by outworking somebody else at a very young age, because I wasn't the most talented. So it would be like, I can work harder than you. So the book was written off those principles of when you bring a good attitude, when you work hard, when you apply yourself, when you do the extra 5% more than anybody else, you will be successful, whatever that is, or you will achieve your potential. And that was the reason around Champion Minded was, you won't know unless you try your best and you try your hardest. And at the end of the day, I couldn't have done any more. And that's what Champion Minded is being about, no matter what that level is. Champion Minded doesn't necessarily mean you're standing on top of the podium, because only one person gets to do that. It's knowing that when you put your head on the pillow, I gave it all today. I achieved what I could today. Or at the end of your career, you know what? I gave everything I could. And that's the message I try to bring across in that book for sports and for life.
Yeah. Totally agree.
Yeah.
So, Xavier, moving on to what Alistair just said, what are your aspirations when you were just entering onto the ATP tour? Did you have dream goals and set goals, or did you just love playing tennis and traveling around the world?
Everybody has dream goals, but I wasn't always the guy who said, because everybody says, well, I want to be number 1,
yep.
But like I said, there's only one guy can be number 1. So, of course I had goals. My goals are more being motivated to play in front of big crowds. That was my first goal. I wanted to play in a huge stadium and entertain people and just be there. Obviously, when that happens, then you start setting your goals ranking wise and what you want to be at the end of the day. And it still was, even when I came back after my injury, my first goal again was I'd love to play on center court in Wimbledon again, because I know that feeling was amazing, so now I want that again. So, everybody has different goals. To say I want to be number 1, of course I want to be number 1. Who doesn't want to be number 1? But, it's everybody's different in that aspect. I was, like I said, my first goal was I'd love, Wimbledon was always a dream for me. Then, I wanted to play in a packed house in US Open, which I did with Agassi. And then, once you get to the top 100, then you start setting goals of, okay, I want to, at the end of the year, I want to be 70, 60, I want to do this, want to do that. Because every year you have to reset your goals, Even if you drop in rankings, your goal needs to be, well, I need to get back to the gym or practice harder on that. So now if you're moving up, now you can talk about, I want to get to the 30s, the 20s, You can't just say, well, I want to be 20, because it just doesn't happen that way. You really got to set a realistic goal and make sure you can achieve it. Because if you set it too high all the time, there's always that disappointment of missing it. So be realistic, and everybody should dream about their own goals.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. The whole idea of you taking on those top 3, obviously there's the well documented match against Federer in the Davis Cup, and then I've had these huge discussions about the other one, that is there another time that you beat him or not? So if we could clarify, that would be great. That obviously wouldn't be a goal, would it? It's just, would it been a goal to take out Federer on the tennis court? These guys that were emerging, you probably felt may go a long, long way. Would that have been a goal of your coach at the time, or would it have been just another match? mindset
I mean,
there? Because obviously it's history
yeah,
where
yeah.
I'm coming from.
No, I mean,
but it's
I mean, I have to be honest too. I played Federer when I think I was 20. He was 19, so he wasn't the Federer that he was at 24.
Okay. But could you see something?
But yeah, of course, you could see he was going to be there very, very quickly because he was coming on as a storm too. So, yeah, I mean, of course, and I think everybody's goal is to beat Federer. But at that stage, it was in Davis Cup. The goal was to win Davis Cup, so I enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it more because it was more Davis Cup. It was the winning, it was 2-1, so we won. That I won the match was full of cramps, so that was more the goal that day. So it didn't feel like a personal win. It felt more like a team win. So at that stage. You always, I always, with the top guys, I love playing the top guys because, well, it's a little bit easy. You got nothing to lose. If you lose, nobody says anything. But I always played good against the top guys because it gave me so much motivation. And in all honesty, I was sometimes lose matches to a guy that was 90, 100, or 150 because. And I don't mean this disrespectful, but I just got bored. There's no challenge. When you're 20 in the world and you play 150, everybody expects you to win. It's a different pressure, different feeling, and sometimes I got bored. Not because I disrespect my opponent, but just because the level was a little bit different. So, and that's probably also why I beat the main guys because every time I played them, I was motivated. I wanted to do it. I knew also I could keep up with them tennis-wise. So. If I was in good shape, then I knew I always had a chance. So.
I remember following you. I went to Roland Garros. I used to do a day trip to Roland Garros. Take the Eurostar, plan it all out, get a ground pass, get there, first train out, last train back, go and watch the tennis. And you were playing, I think, on one of those outside courts. And I heard about how sweet you hit that ball and how the timing on it's beautiful. So I thought, I better go and check this guy out. And I think he was playing Tursunov.
Yes.
Somewhere out there on court 14.
17.
Was it 17?
Yeah,
right over
17 or,
there.
17 or 18,
That's
yeah.
right. And I looked at my watch, I got, right, the Eurostar's leaving, I've got to go and watch you play. Because everyone's saying, Chad, you've got to watch this guy, and he's so cool. So I sat there watching, I thought, oh my God, I wish I could hit the ball like that. And it just felt, I don't know, I can't, because I never watched the whole match, I had to go back home to get the. Did you win that match?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was a long match, wasn't it?
Was it? No,
it was
four
five.
sets. It was four sets. Because I remember the whole Anderlecht team came with the bus to watch it. That's why I still remember. Yeah. I have a buddy, and they gave all the driver of the bus from the Anderlecht team, and it was funny because we went for dinner at night, and then. I said, well, where do I find you guys? He says, don't worry, you'll see us. And all of a sudden, the Anderlecht bus is coming on Champs-Élysées. So, but I do remember that. It was last court
that's right.
on the right there in the back courts.
It got pretty cold that evening as well. Yeah.
I think it was pretty easy the first set, and I had a bad third set.
I think that's when that's right. I think that's when I thought, oh no, come on, play, because I've got to get more hurry up.
6-2, 4-6, 6-3, 7-5 or something.
So that was one of those matches where you kind of there, not there, and is
yeah,
that what you mean against Tursunov?
It's a little bit. Obviously, for us playing in Paris, it's like Davis Cup for us because so many Belgian people. So they kind of, they put themselves behind the player, and so it helps, But yeah, I mean, I had matches that I should have won with my eyes closed that I lost just because either didn't put in the work or I just got lazy and bored.
I think a lot of club players can relate to that one.
Yeah.
I'm the better player. I should have beaten him.
And that's
I've done all the lessons.
Yeah, and that's the pressure that players put themselves on, is that I'm expected to win this, and that's another pressure, like Xavier was saying. But did you notice Xavier remembered the score?
Yes, I did. I was like, oh, he remembered.
Okay, now this is probably 8 years ago, right?
It's longer.
No, I think it's longer than that.
2009 maybe, because I started with you in 2009, right? Because I was with you that match. So
in the back, I think it was 2000. Yeah, probably after my injury, the first time I played the French. So 9 or 10.
9 or 10, yeah. But we spoke about this last night. Is that working with a lot of top players, they remember everything. They remember scores, of matches. Like Xavier just said the score there right now. I mean, he's played maybe 1,000 matches in his life. I don't know, and they remember all the scores.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible take back, the recall on that.
Yeah. It's gone down a little bit.
And why is that?
We're almost 40.
That's what happens with age, right?
It's only my age, then.
Yeah.
Moving on that one. How did you two meet then? So how did that all come about? And I'm really intrigued from a coach's point of view. Would I call you a coach then when you met your role?
No, I was a trainer. I was a physical trainer at that stage in my career, and we were at Bollettieri. I was working with another player, and I'd actually learned how to speak fluent Dutch as well. But I mean, obviously, Xavier speaks perfect English. But I would just love to also speak to Belgian players or Dutch players, like, I can speak your language type of thing. And no, but I mean, I think we hit it off straight away. Xavier's.
That appealed to you, that one thing, like he could speak Dutch a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it. I saw his workouts, and
totally.
sure we saw practices, and you're in the same environment. You see each other a lot at the academy. So and the most important thing is there has to be a click. If you're gonna travel together, and it's like I said, it's like a marriage almost. So you need to trust each other, and not that I trust him all the time, but.
And it's been a rocky marriage as well. So yeah.
But it was just his work as everybody knows was really good, and I got injured, so I felt like the physical part for me was where I needed to get a lot better. I could play tennis. I just got tired sometimes, and we started talking.
And then where were you in your career? Because you got injured.
Yeah, it was my first injury I ever got for 6-7 months.
And then your ranking went to.
Well, I went all the way probably to about 300, 250, 300. Yeah, I was off for 7 months. So basically, if you're off for 6-7 months, your ranking's gone. So because by the time you get back, and if you played some challengers, it's not easy.
And that's when you hooked up, both of you, at that time.
Yeah, just before my injury, I was in probably before that I was in a really, really good shape. I had put in the work, and I was I beat Nadal, beat Blake, won 2 tournaments, singles and doubles in the same month in Delray Beach and Chennai, and I felt like I was in the best. For me, if I knew I did the work and I was good physically, my mental was. I didn't even have to think about it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then I got injured, so I felt like, okay, if I could get back to being in really good shape like I was in before my injury, then I feel like I had a chance to come back. Obviously, you get older, so you have to put in twice the work almost. So, and that's what we did. We came back pretty quickly actually. So, which wasn't expected. But I was traveling with Max a little bit too, and I still remember the first tournaments I came back. I played Indianapolis, was horrible. No disrespect, but I lost to a friend of mine, Jesse Levine, who put the ball in play, and I just couldn't play tennis. So I actually talked to Max and said that I'm done. This is not the way I want to play anymore. So he actually said, let's go play a couple of challenges in Canada. And let's just have fun. Don't just practice when you want. Don't do too much. And even though it's not the way to do it, but we had ice cream. We went and play mini golf. Just the fun stuff. Just to take my mind off tennis. I was so focused on playing bad. And before I knew it, I won the tournament. Got a special in the next one in Vancouver. Played finals there. Got my hunger back, and I think that's when we started connecting, because I felt, okay, my tennis is coming back, but now my physical needs to be a lot better. And then so we connected, and Allistair made the time.
And how much did you put him through then? How did you test
you know what I mean? We obviously had a chat, and I wanted to see how committed he was first of all as well, and his actions proved his words, because obviously, some people had said, not known, but he doesn't work that hard sometimes, and so on and so forth. But I could see he really, really, really meant it. And let me tell you, the work he put in, it was, sometimes we'd do 2 physical sessions a day. We'd go do hill sprints. We'd do, running over Sarasota Bridge 10 times. We would have some really grueling sessions, on the beach, for example. He put in the work, didn't complain. Well, maybe sometimes. But he was 100% committed. I mean, in no time, like you said, he'd gone from 300, a few challenges, and then he was, I think, top 40, 37. He was back there. So put in the work, well deserved. Especially coming back, I think it was when he was maybe 30, 31. It's not easy. So yeah.
And were you surprised, or were you pleased?
I actually said that to somebody last night. I enjoyed it more the second part after I got injured, even though my ranking, instead of my best is 19 and then best after was 35, but I enjoyed it 10 times more after my injury than I did before when I was younger.
Did you appreciate the
I
time
appreciate it so
because
much
of the
more.
loss?
Yeah,
It's like grief.
Yeah, and when you're young and upcoming, everybody wants something. Everybody's telling you this and telling you that, and it's just and you think you have to do everything people say. So, while after it was just us, and it's you don't have to listen to 20 people saying do this, do that. It's just. We did the work, we traveled together, yeah, exactly, and but that's why I said there needs to be trust on the team and all that, but yeah, I enjoyed it 10 times more. And when I played Federer after my injury on Wimbledon, or I played Federer before my injury, I would take all the time after my injury. I enjoyed it, I enjoyed the moment, I knew I put in the work, I know how it feels not to play, because when you're 6 months on the side and you want to play, you're anxious and you know what you're missing, so before my injury, you just take it for granted sometimes. You think, well, this is easy, and you make money. It's all nice, but you forget the little things, and you forget to actually enjoy it and appreciate
first
it.
love almost, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel that about tennis. It's my first love almost.
Yeah. And the fun part leaves, because it becomes a job instead of it's still a hobby, we're fortunate enough to make a living off our hobby. So you forget the fun, you forget that where you came from sometimes, and not in a bad way or a arrogant, cocky way, but just you're in a bubble, and when with the disqualification and the injury, you start realizing what you lost and what you really what you have too. So the last 6 years were a lot better than the first 9 years.
Yeah. So you're talking about so many people giving you advice, and I mentioned too many chefs is an analogy. But now when we watch tennis on the TV, we look at the box. Friends and family, there's a big team in there. There's a big team in there. But when it was you guys, it was like you two probably, and maybe one more person on,
Yeah, I mean,
but now the box is full of like whoever they are.
Yeah, that's 2 reasons. I mean, obviously they make more prize money, so you get to invest a bit more too. So you can. I didn't have the financing of getting a coach, a physical, maybe a massage guy. That's 3 salaries you're paying, plus all the flight tickets are for you. All the food. So, now it's a bit different in that way. They make more, which is good, so they can invest more and get a bigger team on what they need. But I think it was more old school back then too. You just trusted that one person and let's go do it. And now too many people have a say.
Yeah.
Even managers. I mean, I respect them because obviously they do it. Some of them do a really good job. But a manager should be a manager and manage the contracts and get the guy the money he deserves. too many managers are getting way too involved. Hit your backhand this way, do this, go there. But that's how it is.
So crossing over.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the physical guy should do the physical, the coach should do the tennis,
know your role.
should do this, the chef cook should do the food, you know, whatever it is. But there's too many people, like you say, there's too many people in the box. And then there's 3 friends traveling, and now, you know, they get a say in it, hit the ball this way, and, you know, that's why old school, you know, 1 or 2 people, trust them and go for it.
Yeah.
So when you were playing on the tour, and now there's talk about bringing on-court coaching, they have it on the WTA tour, they're thinking of bringing it on.
No.
How would you felt?
No chance. I mean, I'd probably be more pissed off after my coach came on court. You know, if you're in a state of mind and now you have a guy talking in your ear while you're already in a bad mood, I mean, I was going to punch him, you know. And I think, you know, that's the beauty of the sport. Figure it out, you know, figure a way to win.
Solve the problem.
Yeah, solve the problem. I did a bit of coaching on the women's tour for the first 3 months, and with a Belgian girl, and I told her, I said, don't put me on this list, I'm not coming on the court, you know, I'm not doing this, because first of all, you know, they're, like I said, they're in a bad mood. You're not getting any coaching because they're playing good, so when everything's going good, you don't have to come on court, it's only when it goes bad. In some situations it's nice, like Philip de Haas, who's actually a Belgian coach, he was really good at just kind of taking their mind off things and talk about positive things, but I went on court once, and I don't feel like it helps. I mean, you can think, do this, and say, do this or that, but by the time you get to the line, you have to play yourself anyway. So, you know, it's the beauty of the game that you have to figure out a way to win, you know, so not just because your coach comes on court. And I don't feel it's a big help.
How do you feel about that, Alistair? Do you think it's a TV thing?
Obviously, you know, we have a different perspective that is that I think it can help, but you know, you've got to know that first of all, you have to know your player. You have to know how your player responds best. You know, we spoke last night about the power of sense of humor. Of, you know, if it had happened with Xavier, I would have, you know, because I know him. Listen, he knows tennis way more than, you know, I do. So it's not me telling him basically what to do, because, you know, he was an intelligent player on the court. He figured it out. But it would probably be to go on there and tell him a joke, which would ease him up a little bit, or whatever. It wouldn't be advice. On the other hand, you know, there's some advice you could give players of, you know, maybe you're not seeing this of your opponent or whatever. The big mistake, and listen, I cringe when I hear those on-court coaching things some of the time. Coach comes on, lays out 15 bits of information. Player has not even had a say, right? The coach is still carrying on after time. He's almost going to get the violation because he's still staying on there. Now, there was one incident, I'm not going to mention any names, but coach comes on, I think it was at Indian Wells, or no, it wasn't Indian Wells, wherever it was, to female player. He comes on there, talks nonstop for 2 minutes about backhands, forehands, forward, back, this, that. And I can see the player just sitting there like looking straight going, I have no clue what's going on here. Anyway, she loses the set. The very next game, as in after the first game, calls him back on. So now she's used her timeout for the second set. She's using her first coach call on the first opportunity for the next. Coach comes back on the court, right? She goes, I have no clue what you said. Can you just give me one thing? And that's powerful advice. Just give me one thing. Simple. Gave her one thing, went back on the court, figured it out. And she won the match. You know, overload, we also got to say, wait a minute, whose show is it? Is it the coach's show because now you've got this mic on, or is it for the player? But powerful advice, keep it simple. One, maybe 2 things, that's it. And let the player talk. Yeah.
Who was your coach on the Davis Cup one? The captain, sorry.
There's been a lot. I mean, when it first started,
because that happens there, doesn't it?
Koen Gunnison was the first one. Wow. He had 3 players, Van Gars, Van Herk, and Goossens back in the day. And then there was Gabriel Gonzalez. There was Julian Hofferlen, who was at the ATP, who sadly passed away. Also, and then at the end there was Johan van Herk, Steven Martins a little bit. So makes me sound old with all this.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that for ages.
I mean, it changes. It changes every 2 or 3 years usually.
But that's where the original on-court coaching comes. But it's not really coaching, is it?
Yeah,
You can tell they're just
yeah.
sitting there going, well, go for
It's
it.
interesting
Yeah.
because I actually would tell them, don't talk too much in my ear,
Oh, is that-
because like Alice said, if somebody says too much, you go out on court more confused than you started the game. So, one or two things. I've actually told a coach, stop talking, because it was just do this, do that, do this. Well, you know what? I'm going to be back here in 2 games. I can't do everything you said in the next 8 points, maybe. So it's know your player. With me, they didn't have to talk much. I wanted to relax on the side. With Steve Darcis, who used to play all the time in Davis Cup, it was more a nice chat. Goffin is pretty quiet. Then we had the doubles guys. They wanted advice all the time. Everybody's different, and if the coach has to know what to do, also, it works both ways. It's teamwork. So.
Super coaches, Xavier. Are you going to be a super coach?
Not yet.
Have you got anyone that you want to tell us is coming, and we might see you?
Oh no! I mean, I enjoy playing still too much. The thing I like about coaching is when we talked about this the other day, because we traveled with the player a little bit over the summer. And I have the mistake of trying to say too much sometimes. Even if I coach with somebody for an hour, I feel like I want to tell you everything. But you got to slow down, because you're not going to get anybody better in an hour anyways. Just one tip. If they get off the court with, you know what, on the forehand he said, move around the ball a little bit more, give yourself space. If they take that home, then it's fine. But coaching is tough, because you have to fix everything. It's almost, I'm not saying babysitting sometimes, but you have to make sure your player feels good, that you give them the right advice, not too much, not too little. And I'm still learning. I mean, I still play events myself, and I still play a little bit here and there. So I still enjoy playing too much for me to fully coach. I enjoy going to a couple tournaments and helping a person here and there, a couple of pointers, and like I said, if they walk away that week with one thing, or every other week, then if you can. I did the same. I took a little bit from Nick Bollettieri, I took a little bit from Fritz. I had a great coach with David Felgate. You take the pieces and the good stuff, and you mix it together, and you become good.
Yeah, less is more, isn't it? Over the
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
just like
Yep.
Not shouting across. I remember being a rookie coach and just giving them. There we go.
Yeah.
That's how you get the forehand.
Yeah.
But of course it didn't work.
Yeah, because as
Everyone's different, everyone's
well, that's the
different.
thing. The big mistake coaches make is they want to come on.
totally.
They want to come on with their toolbox.
Yeah.
They want to fix everything, and they want to show you what they know.
Well, they know, yeah.
And that's the biggest mistake. The worst thing you can do, especially with an elite player, is come in there and start fixing things. Because that player is going to resist that. Trust comes before the change. You're only going to only when you trust someone are you going to embrace the change, which is still difficult, and that can take months. And the big mistake, like you said, rookie coaches, even I see it on the ATP and WTA tour, they start with a player, they're on the court next to you, and you can see this coach is giving them, changing this, changing that, and you're thinking, that coach is probably not going to be here in 2 weeks' time. And most of the time it happens, because they try and come on there and show everything they have. And the player is very resistant to it. Why? Because they're thinking, hold on a second, I've got to this level with what I have. I'm not so sure if I want to change something,
You want to add little things, not fix the whole thing.
And when you was on the tour, was it repetition of the same thing? Your strengths, repetition. Was you a workaholic, or you just went on?
I was. I mean, I was.
Sweet ball.
Yeah, I was blessed that I could, not play for a couple months, pick up the racket, and play like a, So some people have to practice 4 hours a day. I felt, and that's something I changed after my injury too. I did a lot more physical work because for me that was important, and I knew I was going to lose my timing. So all I did after was just hit baskets, get the timing. If you feel good after an hour, quit, because if you're playing the best after an hour, everything after that can only go worse, you know. So I'd play an hour, feel good. If you play 45 minutes and you say, you know what, I got a great sweat, you know, and I hitting the ball sweet, why keep doing it? You're feeling great, especially to the next day. If you're not hitting it good, you work on it a half hour more until it feels good, and then you get off.
That's got to have a great relationship with your coach to say,
yeah,
you know what, I'm in the right place, and for him or her to say, okay, let's go.
Yeah, but it's not always easy for the coach, because the coach sometimes will say, well, keep hitting, because you need to hit balls, and that's where, like with Allistair, we understood. Yeah. Also, I'm knowing, okay, I'm going to do 2 hours of physical work, which for me is more important than hitting the ball.
That probably all sets that at the very beginning on your meetings, that you'll actually have this specific goals of doing more physical in your case than on court hitting.
Yeah, you need to realize what you need to do.
Yeah, you know, I'm there's a plug for my first book, 7 Keys to Being a Great Coach, but I wrote about in that period we worked with Xavier, and you know, he knew what he needed. You know, we always talk about players learning from coaches, but he made me a better coach, and he changed me as well in terms of I was an ultra serious guy, and Xavier changed that. Thank goodness. You know, he's let me in. He taught me how to enjoy life a little bit more, which I'm eternally grateful. But he also taught me that gaining confidence is, and this is important to, you know, for coaches out there with their players. Gaining confidence is about, like he said, stopping the practice on a high. Xavier never, you know, never, hardly ever finished the practice on a low. He would know, that's good, even if it was, like he said, 45 minutes. You know, instead of, you know, the coach thinking, well, I want to work on this, I want to work on that. Well, I booked the court for 2 hours. He would know when to finish, and he would go home happy. And that is how you gain confidence, is that you feel good, and you go home. That's how you build confidence, brick by brick, every single day, until you have this wall of confidence. Too many players and coaches, you know, let their practices go until it's going down, until it's going down, and then
again to get back to where you were.
Exactly. And there's a lesson from Xavier that he taught me as well, as finish practices on a high. If it's 45 minutes, whatever it may be, that.
Yeah, that's good insight. It's really good.
Yeah.
A lot of coaches don't do that. They just keep going.
They
push.
If they feel
it's their personality trait.
Exactly.
Is one to drive.
It's definitely towards the next day, because if you finish on the low, the next day you come in, I missed this and that. But if you finish on the high, the next day you come in not even thinking. You know, you're in a good mood and pick up where you left off. So you know, it's.
I did forget to answer you the question about your junior days. About where were you, say under 10s, under 12s? Because there's coaches here in the UK where I think they were completely decided by the idea that our red player has to be a county player, has to be a national player. You know, red. We got the red.
Yeah. And the green and the orange.
I think there's a blue one coming too.
Which came from Belgium, I think.
I think we copied it.
Stephen Martin.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we copied your system.
Yeah.
And there's a fixation about, you know, they've got to hit this level at this age. I mean, at the club, you were at the Harlem Club, we've got 2 county players, 1 national player, under 8s.
Okay.
So, it's like, well, we're really happy, as you can imagine. The parents happy, everyone's happy, you know, we've got the kid with his cup and everything. It's like, I fear for him, because I don't know whether it's going to carry on going, especially with the stat that you mentioned about under 14s. In most sport, you just drop out. So he's at 8. He's got another 7 years to go.
To that age.
He's going to lose somewhere along that thing.
I mean, you don't want
and
to
I feel for that. I feel
either.
for everyone at the club. The parents, the coach that I know really well, and I help the kid and stuff.
Yeah, I worry about junior parents where they use the word win and lose a lot.
Yeah,
because that's where their focus is on. Win good, lose bad. And, you know, as we just said there now, is a lot of young people, players, athletes, aren't taught how to lose or learn the lessons from losing, especially when they're very good at a young age. So, yeah, I do fear for that under 8 or 10-year-old who's winning, the parents get caught up in the identity of my kid is the best, for example, instead of, hopefully they have some good people around them to...
They have. It's whether they listen to us.
Exactly.
Because we're all experienced coaches.
Exactly.
Or we hope we are. And they listen to our advice, just go and watch the movies or something. No, but there's this one, but there's a dialogue that, we're just coaches, we are not, that person is not our bloodline.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
And they've invested so much emotion and money.
Well, here's the thing. It's a lot of the time it's ego driven. My kid is the best. My kid beats other kids. It's ego driven. It's maybe dreams of the parents before that they maybe missed on. Now they're living through the kids, in a way. But yeah, that's some of the things where it comes from, and it can be very detrimental. And also, listen, we talk about choosing your sport at a certain age. What do you know at 12, 13? Your only goal is to please your parents. If they're happy, then everything else is happy in the house. Yeah, they don't know. They don't know. I mean, you're just trying to please your parents. You don't know what you should be doing at 20.
I was flicking through your book, and there's a term called emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Could you just quickly say something about it?
Yeah, sure. Well, emotional intelligence. So we're born with an IQ.
Yeah.
Definitely mine wasn't too high, by the way. Because hence going back to the book Champion Minded, right? Use what you've got. So there's IQ you're born with. There's EQ, which is emotional intelligence, which is a skill which you can work on. And just simply put, emotional intelligence is understanding yourself better, your emotions, your behaviors, your triggers, and social competence, your ability to understand others, get along with others, work together with others. So when you know those two things and you understand those two things, it gives you a better chance of success in the world, dealing with people and obviously dealing with your emotions. Because in the end, your results come from your behaviors, which come from your beliefs. So in a nutshell, that's emotional intelligence, and it's becoming a more and more known term these days.
Yeah, it's a great phrase, and I was like toying with the idea which way around it is, and has it got a number? Do you think emotional intelligence, like the IQ?
I think you've just given me a good idea there of bringing out a method in the number. You know what? He's a 78 EQ.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not very high.
No, exactly. Not referring to anybody here at the table.
How is your emotional intelligence?
No, it's 68. Hanging around Allistair for 2 days.
Well, around me it increases by about 20.
Quickly, like the temperature.
Can I ask you both about the future of tennis? Do you think it's in decline? If you look at the stadiums and the first rounds,
I don't think it's in decline. No? To be honest, I mean, sometimes it's tough for I speak from the men's side. For the 250s, it's tough. Because there's just the smaller tournaments, and like a master series, they get more support maybe. If I would do a tournament in, let's say, Belgium, we have one now in Antwerp, which I went for the first year, and it was really nice this year, but it took them 3-4 years of work and losses, financially for them too. So it's not easy to find sponsors these days. I feel like when I started playing tennis, sponsorship was a lot easier and a lot more. People want something for their money and not just sponsor stuff. So it becomes a lot more difficult, but I don't think tennis is in decline. I mean, you look at the slams there every year. I don't know if it's true, but they always say on TV, got record attendances, the prize money's gone up, more stuff for the fans, which is actually nice. If you go to Australian Open, I mean, it's like going to Disney World, for the tennis. So they're doing a really good job on some things. All the Master Series, you go to Indian Wells, it looks amazing. I I used to play there, and I want to go as a fan now because it's just so easy. You get the drink, you get the this, the that, the golf, the next to it, and you know the whole setup, the whole location, and what they do for the fans. You can have Nobu restaurant in the stadium, you know. So, you know, it's a good experience. So I don't think it's in decline. It's you know. Luckily for Federer and Nadal and everybody, because they've kept it on a really high, and they've been amazing ambassadors for the sport, and still are, and they probably still will be after they quit.
Yeah,
so
my only question was that because in this country, football's massive here in this country. It's absolutely one of the #1 sports up there. But it's because you can get more people playing football than you can on a tennis court. And it's the hard work rate for one person to enjoy it.
And also, and the climate as well, is because it has to be indoors. So you have to belong to a club, which is obviously money. But I agree with what Xavier said there. But I would say I don't like to name it the second tier, but the players that are not directly in slams and you know beyond, let's say 120, I feel that is come into decline with the treatment and the support for that second tier, because as you know, a player of 500 is a very, very high quality. They're not getting the support. So yes, the incline and has been there on the top tier. The tournament's more prize money. I mean, U.S. Open is what, 3.2 million for the winner. Almost 4 now. It climbs up. Yep. First round loser is 50,000. So. But then we look at that second tier of the players who are trying to break through, the players who are maybe coming from federations that don't get wild cards, the federations that don't have funding and support, like the smaller countries, they're not getting any support. So from my side, I agree with Xavier in the higher level, but that second tier, Challengers Futures, no, there needs to be more work there, support.
Just come to the end of our podcast. That's amazing insights of what you both told us. But there's a couple of questions that I've got left over for you both. I know you worked with Kevin Anderson, and do you know where he is at this? Not physically where he is at, but is he coming back? Is he still injured? Do you know what's happening with Kevin?
Yeah, we stay in touch quite a lot. I mean, right now this week he's in New York where he's defending his title, New York Open, I think it is. Last year was very tough for him. I mean, we stopped the end of 2018, so last year he was with another team, and he was struggling last year. I'm not sure if it was the hip or knee. I spoke to him in December again. It looked like he was able to get through a few matches in Australia, which is positive. But I'm very curious to how his year is going to be. Yeah, because the only thing that is limiting him right now possibly is the physical side. You know, he's got the game. He's been able to get the mindset at a very high level. So yeah, it's, you know, I hope he has a great year. But I think the physical side is going to be a challenge. Yeah, not because of work ethic, but because of physical limitations.
Xavier, what have you got planned for the next year?
I mean, it's always tough, you know, a little bit here and there. I still play events on the Champions Tour, a couple, you know, I play also a couple of things in Leeds, just, you know, fun events. So I got a couple, I guess, coming up in Croatia, and then Wimbledon. I played the last 2 years, so we'll see if this year works out. But and then just a couple, you know, some things coming up. Can't really say anything yet, but you know, well, no, because if it's because I want to make sure, and I don't want to do, you know, say things that afterwards.
Give me $100. I'll tell you.
So no, not much. I mean, not much. Yeah, not much and much actually. And so, you know, I love doing this. You know, it's nice to talk about the game. I love playing events because it still keeps you in the loop with the tennis. You see the guys back from back in the day too. Played Albert Hall 6-7 years already, which I love. Yeah. That's still an amazing event. I mean, the venue, and it's more and more players. So, you know, it's fun. I enjoy the game this way. I'm fortunate enough to be part of this group where we can have a drink, dinner, play with the guys and everything. So that's it for now, and things always come along the way, and but everything in tennis was love the sport.
And have you seen Federer since your last meeting?
Yeah, I've seen him a lot, but on the wrong side of the court. So I think he's one of the best guys there. He's every time he says hi to everybody. If he sees you, he'll walk around and come and say hi. He's the best guy there is there.
Class.
Ambassador for the tennis. Him and Nadal, they just did that match in Africa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, who does that? Because they have a busy schedule, and he did the thing last year where he flew like 5 matches in
South America,
Ecuador, and Colombia, and all. That's not easy, and also promote the sport. And every time, it's just an amazing. He's an amazing player, but I think as a person, he's even better. So it's going to be sad when he quits, because they're going to lose one of the greatest guys. Well, probably not lose, because he'll stay involved. But
loves the sport.
It's been a pleasure to be at the same era, but it's been very tough, because when he's beating you up, and it's not a fun feeling.
Guys, thank you so much for this morning. It was amazing chatting to you both about everything in tennis and your journeys especially, and I wish you all the best in the future. Hopefully we can all hook up again, and more than welcome to come back and coach at a club.
Thank you.
More than welcome to come back. Thank you for the Aceify and our podcast, and Malcolm and Charles and everyone. And we'll catch you all next time.
Super. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.